Last week, the leaders of Germany and France agreed to create a Eurozone budget aimed at boosting investment and providing a safety mechanism for the 19 nations using the euro currency.
I think we can say overall that we are opening a new chapter of initiatives for the European Union as well as for Franco-German cooperation. On the big topic of economic and monetary union, of course, cooperation between us was the most complicated. But I believe we have found a good solution. We are striving for a Eurozone budget, which should come into force parallel to the mid-term financial outlook.
The creation of a Eurozone budget is part of important reforms we've been working on together for a long time, and it's a political commitment from both sides, as Angela Merkel already said, for specialist work on a ministerial level until the end of the year, and then probably next year, the exchange of agreements, and finally the reform taking effect in 2021.
The announcement came ahead of a June 28 European Union summit, and more than 8 years after the currency bloc was plunged into a deep debt crisis that almost destroyed the euro. Greece and several other countries in southern Europe were forced to impose painful austerity measures in return for bailouts from their richer northern neighbors. The German and French leaders sounded optimistic about their plans' feasibility and the possibility of getting other European countries on board. But their hopes were short-lived as the currency bloc's finance ministers failed to achieve a consensus on the proposal.
What has led to different reactions naturally is the question of whether we need a budget for the Eurozone. The advantages and disadvantages were discussed. I think that the discussions showed that the path proposed has been shown to be reasonable. There's still time for the debate.
Olaf Scholz's French counterpart also warned that the Eurozone was not yet, quote, an economic union, saying it would be irresponsible not to draw lessons from the Greek crisis. Meanwhile, the Franco-German plan has faced opposition from a dozen countries, including the Netherlands, Austria, and Finland, that question the need for any joint Eurozone fiscal capacity. Those countries also voiced concern about what they called moral hazard risks and questions of fiscal neutrality posed by the plan.
Imagine it was already the United States of Europe. Well, it would mean that the capital, the center, Washington, distributes the taxes that come into it. Then they distribute it out to each state, irrespective of how that state's budget or debt level is. Everything is distributed because we are all one nation. But that is the basic core proposal that's going on here.
French President Emmanuel Macron will have a tough job convincing other Eurozone member states to back his economic plan. But back home, his economic policies have earned him a firestorm of rebukes. French businessman and one of the country's richest men, François Pinault, has accused Macron of neglecting ordinary people.
The French government, Macron's government, is not backing down. They are pushing through with the reform. I think they'll do it. This will, of course, drive down Macron's popularity further in all likelihood, certainly in the short term.
Meanwhile, with the trade row growing between the U.S. and European Union, American President Donald Trump has threatened to impose tariffs on all cars imported from the bloc. Trump's threat came after the EU levied duties on a range of U.S. products, including Harley-Davidson motorbikes. The U.S. is the biggest market for EU car exports.
So this puts enormous strain on the EU, but this is only, let's say this is now an external factor, an external source of strain. The primary source of the strain for the EU remains that which is coming from within.
Should Trump make good on his threat, the measure would have damaging consequences for jobs and economic growth on both sides of the Atlantic.